we've had a lot of sunshine this week, and I do hear that snow may be in the forecast, or I'm not sure if someone was just teasing me, but I'm excited as we continue on this journey, as we get brighter days, not just because of the length of the day and the sunshine and the flowers and more people getting vaccinated and COVID sort of staying in a much better place, but we're really excited to have people here with us on this journey to get everyone to be moving the best and feeling the best they can by the time of the summer solstice, when we'll figure out what kind of celebration we have. And to help us on that journey today, I am joined by a colleague, a physical therapist, Dr. Leah Katsos. Leah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's so great to be here. Thank you.
So, Leah, you are based out of sort of our flagship clinic in Pawtucket that many people will be familiar with. It's an awesome clinic, but I do know that there's been many challenges for every single person there over the last year. You've had to go from telehealth to coming back into the clinic to managing patients, a lot of stress personally and professionally for everyone. Tell us about what you've done and how you've managed to stay glowing and positive, because I will say every time I see you, you always seem to have such a calmness and positiveness about you. So I want to hear how you managed to do that.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, Michelle. I would say that the things I like to do fit pretty well with the theme of this podcast. So I really try to get outside as much as possible. I am no stranger to using every ounce of my being to pull myself off the couch to get outside. But once I'm there, that's just where I want to be. I like to bike on the bike path and be out in the woods and run and walk and just get some sunshine. Even if it's cold, I would put on my winter coat and my face covering and my hat and really just be outside. It makes a big difference for me.
I think you bring up a great point, is that many people think, well, how does that woman or that person feel motivated to get out and walk or ride a bike or run, even if it's snowing outside? You know what? It's really hard for all of us to pull ourselves off the couch. Yeah. Like, there are very few people that are like, I can't wait to get outside. But we all know that once we do it, we never, ever regret it. Yep. Even if you come back cold, like, you never regret it. And that's what I always have to remind myself on. So we want to hear what other people have been doing, and we want to know who's listening. So please, if you're listening, and no matter where you're listening, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, please let us know that you are here. That will mean that you will get an extra drawing in today's giveaway. Today we are giving away a vibrating foam roller. This is the Hyperice Vyper. Many people are familiar with foam rolling. It's really great for stiffness, aches and pains, relieving those knots in the muscles, but this one vibrates as well. So it's a great giveaway, $199 value. So please let us know you're there. Also, please sign up for our podcast at performanceptri.com/live. It's right down there below. There we go. Sign up, because then you'll be in the drawings every single week, because every weekend through to mid-June, we are giving away things like the Hyperice. There are different vibrating guns, pieces of clothing, bags, hats, all different things. So please sign up. So back to you, Leah. One of the key things that we're going to talk about today is something called mindfulness. And for our listeners' sake, let's talk about what mindfulness is.
Sure.
So I'm going to throw that question over to you. I'm a patient or a not patient, and I'm like, I've heard of this thing. People keep talking about mindfulness. What is it?
Yeah, so I like to think of mindfulness as a conscious awareness. And so it might be easier to follow through a series of examples. So I think maybe most people or some people have heard of mindfulness in terms of eating. So mindful eating, certainly something we can all relate to. Tell me if this sounds like something you may or may not have done. And this is you, Michelle, or anyone that's listening. You get home from a long day, you toss your leftovers in a pan, you heat them up, and you sit down on the couch. I know I talk about the couch a lot. And you put on your favorite show, and you're just engrossed in your show, and you're just taking food in, and all you're really thinking about or observing is whatever it is you're watching in front of you. and not really what you're eating. So that would be an example of not mindful eating. So mindful eating would be, what am I experiencing? What am I tasting? What is the temperature? What are these flavors? Is this something that I like? Is this something that I don't like? What are the sounds? What does this make me think of? And really the purpose of mindful eating or just mindful behaviors is being more present in the things that you do every day. We talk about mindfulness a lot in the clinic with everybody here, but specifically with the pelvic health population. So with the pelvic health population, it's quite common that people aren't really thinking about what their pelvic muscles are doing during the day, or really what any of their muscles are doing during the day. You know, how often are you thinking about your upper traps while you're walking around? Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Unless you're in therapy. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. So pelvic floor muscles is basically the bottom of your pelvis, feeds into your abdominal wall. Yep, Michelle's going to use her hand here. That's perfect. Pelvic floor muscles, you know, basically we could talk about that another day, but basically contribute to your bowel function and your bladder function and so forth. And many people are coming into the clinic for those ailments. And no one's thinking about what their pelvic floor is doing. No one's thinking about what their biceps are doing or their quad muscles are doing. It's just, you're just walking around and doing your thing. You know, you're not really mindful in that way. And anyways, to draw the connection to mindfulness, I always preface this to patients by saying, you know, how open-minded are you feeling? Because these are some goofy exercises. You know, you're going to lay down and you're going to put your feet on the wall and you're just going to lay there and with a series of cues, of course, but you're going to think about what your pelvic floor is doing and you're going to squeeze and you're going to let go and you're going to do a series of other things. But your exercise for the next 3 minutes is to just lay there and be aware. So mindfulness is very much a part of my practice here with the pelvic population, with really anybody that's coming in. But, you know, just to take some time and say, what am I feeling? What is my body doing? And that's how people get better.
Yeah. I think you bring up such an interesting point, because I do find it amazing how many people are not aware of the sensations in their body. Right. It's kind of like that game, and I don't know if you played it as a little girl. I remember we used to play it as a family, and someone in your family would take your back and draw a picture on your back. Is this a house? Is this a person? Is it a cat? And our sensation is kind of funky when people draw on it. It's hard to really think about it. But again, what we're trying to do, and I don't even know if that was a good example, is get people to think about different parts of their body and be connected. It allows then you to have much better control over the musculoskeletal system. It allows you to have a better control over your sensations. I love your example about eating. And I do what you mentioned to stop me from overeating. Is when I eat, I try and feel like, am I hungry? Mm-hmm. Am I still full? Do I really like this, or am I just eating it because it's delicious? I do the same when I'm drinking wine as well. Do I really need, how am I feeling? Do I really need to have that other glass of wine? But being mindful, I think, to me, allows you to be in a position where you're in control. Mm-hmm. And when you're in control of your own body and decisions, things are a lot less scary, especially when it comes to pain management, healing, all of those things.
Yeah, excellent. I love that you mentioned control. I think that's great. That's great.
Tell me, some people might say, what's the difference between mindfulness and meditation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that meditation is a well, there are so many different types of meditation that I'd like to clarify. So one type of meditation that I'm a little bit more familiar with is Sahaj meditation, and that's has to do with, you know, energy systems in the body and focusing your attention inward. Mindfulness does not have to be its own isolated meditation, I think is the way that I would think about it. So meditation is carved out time. You know, I'm going to spend 3 to 5 minutes focusing on my breath. They certainly go hand in hand, but I like to think of mindfulness as just like a way of being. Yeah. You know, you're going to go through your life, mindful. And maybe to strengthen your mindfulness, you'll dedicate part of your day to meditation. And that's the active practice of being mindful. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I often think of it as meditation is almost a time where you want quietness.
Sure.
You're trying to shut things down, and you may use breathing and the different methodologies out there, whereas the mindfulness is just part of helping us, something that we do as we live our lives and during our day, to make us much more aware and conscious of the decisions we make, and therefore the impact that we can have over who we are as people. Let's talk about some of the benefits, because I'm sure there's some people out there going, well, why do I have to think about, why can't I just sit on the couch and shovel those leftovers in, and it's delicious, and I can like escape everything and forget about the day I had and watch my TV show? Like, what are some of the benefits of mindfulness?
Yeah, great
Let's
question.
go back and forth. Let's make a list.
Sure. I'd like to first start by saying it is totally fine to indulge and to eat something pleasure and watch your show. With mindfulness, I don't want, my entire day to be, mindful and rigid and have rules. But I would say, yeah. So what are the benefits of mindfulness? One, it's going to be, if we're using the food example, general health and portion control. I mean, we know it's like a large issue here where we tend to be overeaters. And if we can identify reasons why we overeat that aren't putting ourselves on these strict diets, it's not about a diet. It's about, exactly like you said, Michelle, am I hungry? Am I full? Like, what is my body telling me? What is this control I can have over what I'm doing without restricting certain foods or eating at certain times of the day? Just really listening to what your body needs. So the benefit would be nutritional health or general health and wellness. That's a pretty big one. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I'll add to that, and I'll put one, and the studies show this, that being mindful definitely has an impact on your stress.
Yeah.
And we all know that the last year brought a lot of stress, both personally, professionally, in many, many ways. And although being mindful doesn't eliminate it, again, being mindful and present does actually help you minimize helps your body manage stress. And by doing that, it allows you, again, be in more control in that environment. When you have less stress, obviously lots of good cardiopulmonary reasons for that. It's obviously great for minimizing pain if you're someone who's in pain, and allows you to get a lot more done during the day if you're not having to deal with stress.
Yeah. I like what you say about stress too, because I think about it in terms of processing interactions. So you have some sort of negative interaction in public or the workplace, and if you're not mindful, you're going to be upset and you're going to wonder what you did wrong and so forth. But if you're, try that mindful approach, like, why did that happen? Like, what is behind the negativity that I received? Is it really about me? Maybe I did do something wrong. Is it me? Is it them? Is there something going on that I don't know about? I use mindfulness a lot in processing interactions.
I'm looking at the team of people you work with, and I'm sure you do have to practice mindfulness. I'm kidding. I did do a little Google. I'm cheating. I did a little Google search for this to say what are the benefits of mindfulness, and one of them is that it shows people who are mindful are kinder. And I was like, oh, what a nice thing, especially in the world that we live in at the moment. But I think you bring up a great point, because being mindful makes you think about your actions, other people's actions, think through things, and ultimately allows us to be more self-aware and therefore hopefully a little kinder.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Can all do with some more kindness at this stage. So another thing we wanted to talk about today, and we'll add this onto the mindfulness component, is we saw many people during the pandemic who suddenly were working at home. And we see many people still working at home. Can you provide some examples or some tips for those people who are working at home, are stressed, who have animals and children running around, they're they're in pain because who knows what they're sitting on or standing at. What would be some key takeaway points for those people listening who are working at home and who are like ready to, like, I don't know, I don't want to put anything bad out there, but are struggling?
Yeah, a few things. And honestly, one of my favorite topics and a pretty good segue into a workstation setup, which is truly one of my favorite things to talk to patients about, especially telehealth patients, because it's truly life-changing when you've got the right setup. And so something I will, I've shared with a few patients early on. So thinking about my own time in transitioning from the clinic to 100% telehealth, which we did in March of last year, during the pandemic. I didn't have a desk. Why would I need a desk? I'm a physical therapist. I work in the clinic and do my work there. And so I pulled together a few, plastic bins and set my laptop on there and used a kitchen chair. And it's like, great, this is perfect. No one, it's telehealth. You can only see what's behind me. Everything is fine. You can't see that I have an unmade bed or whatever is next to the camera. And what I found after maybe 6 or 7 hours of telehealth, I had so much back pain and neck pain, and I wouldn't say that is normal for me at all. And I was like irritated. I'm like, why do I feel so horrible? And then I realized, where I was sitting and how hunched over I was. And I really can't stress enough, like, you can come and see us for back pain or neck pain or posture, and maybe we make you feel good for an hour. But if you're going back to that same 7, 8, 9 hour shift, you're just going to undo the good work you've done. And it can be so, I can't stop using the word life-changing, like life-changing, to change your desk around. Multiply 8 hours a day times 5 days a week times all year and so forth. And then you're seeing me when you're in your 60s and 70s. And it's a lot harder for me to work on your posture and your back pain when it becomes a chronic issue. So I guess my long-winded answer is I would consider some tips for a good ergonomic desk setup. We could certainly talk more privately off screen, but just to get, for anyone that's interested, but just for some real general rules of thumb, I would say the biggest thing is to use your backrest to do the work for you, meaning pull your chair so close to your desk that you really have no choice but to be upright with your forearms supported onto the table. Right, so have that, I just can't really see that, that's fine. Have your forearms supported on the table, use the backrest, make sure your feet can reach the floor, make sure that you're not looking too far down or too far up to see your screen. It's sometimes really that simple, really that simple. Did I answer your question, Michelle?
Absolutely. And I think you bring up a great point, is that we can come up with the list of all the ways to even set it up, but I think mindfulness ties into it.
Sure.
I don't think people, even though I find myself talking to people about how they're set up and how they're working a lot, I don't think people really think through and realize how detrimental it is and how crappy they feel at the end of the day is because of their workstation setup. And it's not just back pain and neck pain. When you're sitting like this all day, hunched over, you imagine the blood flow to your brain is impacted. You're in this forward head posture. You start clenching. Like, you get headaches and you feel, there's so many negative ramifications to that sustained positioning of not moving and not having a good workstation setup. I'll tell you now, as I'm standing, I basically stand all day. I've got a 17-year-old son who's doing school virtually, and he's been complaining of his back. Now, he's like many teenagers and kids who are, when he's at home, he'll actually be in bed most of the time when he's doing schoolwork. And then at the end of the day, he's complaining about his back. I set him up to stand. Now, I'm not saying you have to stand all the time, but being very aware that sitting with how you were set up originally, Leah, really will contribute to pain and dysfunction and just feeling crappy.
Yeah.
It's very critical. Yeah. So great advice there, great aspects there. I know that we do have some questions. What are some of these questions that are coming up? Any tips on how to stay mindful and attentive during meditations with pets in the house? I love this question, Katie.
Lovely. Michelle, would you like me to answer this one?
Absolutely.
Great. So, like we said, there's lots of different types of meditation, but the type of meditation that I like to do actually involves tuning into the sounds around you. So what am I, just being very present in that moment. And that moment has pets. So you've got someone barking, or you've got kids chit-chatting or crying, or, whatever is going on in your house. And that's part of the meditation. So what am I observing? And don't put any thought to it. Don't put any analysis to it. Just, what am I hearing? I'm hearing barking in the distance. I'm feeling a breeze over here. It actually can be part of that meditation, and it doesn't necessarily need to be tuned out. If that feels too stressful or too much to take on, as if you're new to meditation, I would say that I could certainly see why you would find that to be a barrier. The more you practice, the better it is. And even just a little bit of meditation, or a few seconds away from, conscious thought analysis, like, how am I feeling about these situations, can be beneficial. Maybe finding a time when your husband's taking the dog out for a walk, or just sneaking in a few seconds. It doesn't have to be this specific 10-minute session that's at 8:00 in the morning every day. It can really be when you're waiting for something in the microwave to finish heating up, or when you're in the shower where it's a little bit quieter in there. If you're not ready for my initial suggestion, which is to make that a part of your meditation.
Some great tips there, I will say, Leah, and I think you bring up a good point. Don't stress yourself out with thinking, I've got to have this structured 10, 15, 20-minute time. Maybe you just do 1-minute blocks, and that's okay. The other thing, I have a house full of animals, 2 cats, 2 dogs, and a bunny. So if I'm trying to be mindful, and if I actually use it as a game to myself, if I'm like that, instead of allowing me to think, oh, that damn cat, I wish it would zip it, I think to myself, here's my game. Just breathe through it, hear the cat, don't let it bother you. How do I not let these things bother me? And then I go like, okay, I'm quite tolerant. If the dog starts jumping up on me, that may make me smile. But I think it's just being aware and learning how to hear and feel and see these things, and just experience it without allowing it to upset you or get you stressed out and things like that. So, I mean, there's nothing better than having this perfectly set up bedroom or space that you can meditate or be mindful, and no one's going to bug you. But in reality, our lives don't tend to revolve around this. Caitlin Menard has a question there. Are there any mindful podcasts that you can recommend?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know any good podcasts. Michelle, do you?
What I sometimes do is I just go to Spotify.
Yeah.
And just put in mindful music or mindful sounds, and you'll find different playlists on there. I'm not someone who likes someone talking me through meditation or mindfulness. I just want to be able to deal with my own thoughts. So I sometimes like to have the sound there. It's almost like a white noise, so I don't hear the traffic on the street or my kids yelling down the stairs. So I often, Spotify is what I do, but that's me personally, is that I'm not someone who likes to listen to someone talking through a sort of meditation thing. Right. But I think, Caitlin, that's a great point, is to try these different things. What I like and what I feel better with or good with is going to be different to Leah. It's going to be different to you. And unless you take the time to think, what will I try? What's going to work for me? What am I going to do and make a habit of? Then what works for one person isn't automatically going to work for another person.
Absolutely. And you just remind me as well, an app that a lot of patients talk about is Headspace.
Yes.
That's one that people tend to really like. It's not necessarily a podcast, but if you are looking for something a little bit more guided, that can be a really, really great place to start.
You're absolutely right. And actually, kudos to Headspace, because I think they actually opened up their subscriptions, especially for frontline work during the pandemic. So if there's people out there, I'd definitely go check it out, because, I've heard a lot of people talk. I've never tried it, but it sounds like it was something that a lot of people found helpful, including Chelsea Ann. So Good job, Headspace.
Yeah.
And, if there's other people out there who have listened to podcasts or have resources like Headspace, please feel free to share them in the comments. We would love more people to know about them. I know there was another question that came up. How often, we're going to jump back to the workday, and we want to be mindful of these things. So Nicole P is asking, and I'll pass this over to you, Leah, how often should I stand up and stretch during the workday?
Yes, love it. My go-to answer is certainly as much as possible. But if you're looking for something more tangible, the recommendation is about 10 minutes per hour. And that doesn't necessarily need to mean you have to be actively stretching for 10 minutes. But where Michelle has her standing desk situation, even standing and reading something and doing a stretch while you're upright, even that time spent is considered stretching. There's no reason you can't keep doing what you're doing, but maybe if you can picture like a figure 4 stretch or a piriformis stretch. For anyone that's familiar with that, it's basically sitting, putting one foot over the opposite knee and leaning forward until you feel a stretch in the back of your hip. We'd be happy to show you. But that can be something that you can do while you're working. But I like the 10-minute rule per hour.
I think the 10-minute rule too is really nice. It helps give someone like you, Nicole, some structure. Like this isn't something, and you can incorporate it into what you're doing, which is, I like what you said, Leah. I mean, I'll jump back to myself for a moment. I'm standing, but I also have a standing stool. So then I'm leaning, and then I have my drawer open because half the time I've got one foot up. So there's one of the biggest challenges is when we see people with complaints because they're sitting at work all day. It's not so much the sitting or the standing, it's the being stationary. Mm-hmm. And we weren't made to stay stationary. And a lot of the stretching and movement, it's really to say like movement is lotion, movement is medicine. Like moving is good for you. It helps the blood flow, it helps the nutrition, all of those things. So whatever movement you can fit in that works for you, and being mindful of how you feel with it can help you find the best strategies for all of to minimize your risk of pain and other ailments. Let's see what we're going to give away today. Well, I do know what we're giving away, but let's give that away. So we've had some people who have put comments, and we are giving away the Hyperice Vyper 2.0. Really great if you're mindful and you notice like, oh, this is bothering me up in my upper back or my hamstrings, whatever. The Hyperice Vyper is a wonderful tool. So let's do a drawing now and see who our winner is. I know that someone from the background is coming. Here we are, Sarah.
Hello. All right. So the winner of the Vyper 2.0 is Carol Shea.
Congratulations, Carol. Good job. We will be contacting you and getting that out there. And I hope you enjoy that fun piece of equipment. Let's see who we've got next week. 1 o'clock next Thursday. We are joined by Dr. Rob Gradadoria, who many people know, and I love the fact that he is being very mindful about what he eats and what he drinks, and doing a trick that I really like, and that is setting up your lunches the night before, especially for the whole week. He gets to eat a little bit more than I do, but we will be talking about healthy eating, nutrition, and hydration, and taking all your questions next week. And there is a special edition coming out this weekend. Dr. N. Madame is going to be talking about managing back pain. And I love he talks about how back pain is part of the human experience rather than a disease or a major ailment. It's really part of something that we all deal with. So be sure to tune in on Saturday morning, and you will hear from our friend Dr. N. Madame. Leah, let's hear a little bit about your spare time. Tell me, I always like to know about this because it helps me get to know people better. I would love to know favorite TV shows, favorite podcasts. What have you been listening to when you're on the couch eating leftovers?
Yeah, definitely. That's so great. I love that. So I have picked up, I've picked up more books this year than I probably have collectively read in maybe a decade, to be honest with you. And it's not that many books. But I've recently got into David Sedaris, who's a comedic writer. So I've been slowly chipping away at Me Talk Pretty One Day, which is just a collection of they're very, very short stories if you're familiar with him, just little anecdotes about his life. And he's a wonderful writer. I have heard that he is even funnier to watch live. I just haven't had the opportunity to see him. But I've really enjoyed my time there. Anyone that knows me on a personal level will know that in terms of television and honestly most media, I'm a bit stuck in the 90s. I don't think I can watch Friends or Seinfeld or The Golden Girls or really any of those shows anymore. So I have jumped into the 21st century and I started watching Life in Pieces, which does fit the 90s sitcom style, but it is a little bit more current. People have smartphones on there, and it does take place after 2000.
Well, I'm actually looking forward to watching because I've gone back in time because I have a 15-year-old daughter and I've introduced her to Friends. So
it's so lovely.
Really fun, makes me feel younger, yep. And she actually enjoys it. So, but I'll definitely keep a lookout for Life in Pieces. But it's nice to see you obviously enjoying things that make you smile, because David Sedaris, Life in Pieces, these are all wonderful forms of entertainment that are lighthearted and help make us smile. What are you looking forward to as this pandemic evolves and comes to an end? What are you looking forward to the most?
Oh, I love this. I am looking forward to backyard barbecues. I miss being around so many people, and that is all I want to do. I want to bring my collapsible chair, and I want to have some food off the grill, and I want to maybe camp outside, but I really want to be around as many people as possible, to be honest with you. Yeah.
You know, they often you hear that back to basics. Let's change it to back barbecues.
Yeah, great.
I feel like this spring, we all missed out on it last spring. So I'm really excited for this spring and, you know, being in that backyard and enjoying the company of others without the stress and the fear that we had to manage with last year. Any other questions out there? I would love to hear from them. Otherwise, for all of you listeners out there, I look forward to joining us next Thursday at 1 o'clock with Rob Gradadwaria. Let's hear last 10 seconds, your last 10 seconds of advice. If I said to you, Leah, the stage is yours, what would you like the world to know?
Great. Okay. I would say that sometimes it really is just as simple as drinking more water and eating fruits and vegetables. Like, I cannot stress that enough. It's sometimes that simple. Motion is lotion, so keep moving. Tell yourself that you can do it, because one day you will believe it, even if you don't now. Continue with your positive affirmations. Those are my 3 pieces.
Oh my God, I love it. And although I should cut it off then, I should say that I've just been reading, I like to read a bunch of books that to do with all of these kinds of things, especially the motivation side of it. And I think you bring up a great point, that positive affirmation. Believe the person that you want to be and live your life like that. I am, and think to yourself, I don't want to be a person who's mindful or eats more vegetables and fruit and drinks water. Say I am a person who practices some mindfulness to manage my stress. I am a person who eats more fruit and vegetables and makes sure I drink enough water and not too much coffee during the day. And then you're much more likely to actually be that person rather than think it's someone that you're not now. Be that person and be a little bit of it every day. And that's who you are. It's not about always thinking this is who I want to be in the future. Be it now. And know that it's hard work and a little bit each day. And Leah, you have given people who listen today lots of inspiration. I know you've inspired me to continue to be more mindful. It's something I have to think about a lot, but it's something that I definitely think makes you a more clear-minded, less stress, less anxiety, and happier person. So thank you, Leah. I really appreciate it. And so nice to see you.
Michelle, it's always so nice to see you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
We'll see everyone next week.